Hey guys, it's Mike Thurston here, and it's episode 2 of a new training series where I go through each muscle group and talk about what are the common mistakes that people tend to make when training them. So the first episode was chest. Today we're going to go through shoulders. Okay, so we're going to look at some of the most common mistakes people make when it comes to doing some of the shoulder exercises. So whether that be in the gym or with some of the clients which I have, it tends to be not an issue of engaging the deltoid, but more so how to perfect the execution of particular exercises and make sure you can try and place as much tension on the target area as possible. So we're going to start off with seated shoulder press. Now, there's a hell of a lot of things that can actually go wrong when doing something as simple as this, okay? First of all, hand positioning. That's going to be a big one, okay? A lot of people, when they press, they start off with their hands inside of the elbows, similar to when you're doing a bench press. When you drive up and do this kind of a thing, you end up doing some kind of weird reverse tricep overhead extension thing. You don't want to be doing that, okay? Starting off, ideally in this position with the dumbbells on mouth level, hands above your elbows. Your hands should really be above your elbows throughout the whole movement, okay? So as you press, drive up, come up to the top. Don't smash the dumbbells together. Pause at this point, okay? And then slowly come down and bring it down to mouth level. If you bring it any lower to this point, you're just going to be resting, okay? For me, I can chill and sit here, just do this all day. You're not doing anything, you're giving your delts a rest. So pause here, and they're going to ensure that you're working the muscle throughout the entire set. Another thing you don't want to do, when you're pressing the dumbbells up above your head, you don't want to push your shoulders and try and lock your elbows out so you kind of end up in this position. If you push and protract your shoulder, it's not going to do it any good. And if you come to the top of the movement and you actually lock out your elbow, all that's doing, that extra extension of your elbow, is just going to contract and shorten the tricep. It doesn't provide any, further shortening of the deltoid. So let's look at another thing as well. Positioning of the dumbbells in relation to your head, okay, from a side-on view. You want the dumbbells to be directly above your head, not pushing too far forward and not pushing behind you, okay? If you push too far forward out in front of you, gravity is going to pull the dumbbell down and cause rotation in your shoulder, which you don't want to happen. It's going to cause a lot of strain and you're going to damage it. Okay, this happened to one of my clients before. She'd not done an overhead press. She was in a 5th rep. It looked like she was doing fine. The weights were very light. All of a sudden, on the 6th rep, she wasn't concentrating, and her hand went behind her shoulder like that. And I managed to save it from continuing to move in that motion. And I was like, holy shit, you could have fucked up your shoulder so bad. Okay, you have to concentrate and press directly above your head. Down. Press above your head, not pushing forward and not pushing behind your head, okay? One more thing I'd say about the overhead press is symmetry is so important, okay? The right side needs to do exactly what the left side is doing, not only from a front-on direction, but sideways as well. You don't want to be pressing in some funky little direction like this, or pressing with one arm moving in a different direction to the left one. You're going to end up with imbalances and one shoulder bigger than the other. Right, another exercise that many people get wrong is the dumbbell lateral raise. Now, a little bit of basics about the shoulder. You have your front delt, mid delt and rear delt. Now, naturally, because of a lot of pressing which people do, whether it's horizontal or vertically, people will have a stronger front delt and bigger front delt compared to the mid and rear delt. In fact, the rear delt tends to be almost non-existent in comparison to the front delt. So, when doing a lateral raise, myself and when I train my clients, I want them to focus and target on the mid delt. So in order to do that, you need to pay attention to not only the angle of your torso, okay, so whether I'm leaning forward or leaning back, but the position of your hands, okay, how you're holding the dumbbell. If I'm not really thinking about it, when most people do this in the gym, more often than not, because the front delt is strongest, naturally, as they bring the dumbbell up, the dumbbell will be pointing towards the ceiling. However, when this is happening, all the tension is on my front delt. What I want to do is probably angle my torso forward ever so slightly, so I'm not leaning back on the bench, I'm not slouching like that, I'm actually leaning away from it. As I bring the dumbbell up, I'm either keeping it flat, or I may need to point it down ever so slightly. You have to really assess the situation yourself and start with very light weights, okay? As you bring the dumbbells up to the side, look at your shoulder and think, right, okay, where is the tension being placed? Okay, naturally, it will most likely be on the front delt, so you need to change, like I said, the angle of the torso and the position of the dumbbell. I would either keep your hands flat or even pointing downwards slightly. Now, as you go through a set, you will start to fatigue, and your body will like to go through the path of least resistance. So your body will almost force you to push the dumbbells toward the ceiling and use your front delt. You have to try as hard as possible not to do that. Maintain that strong posture and form. And even if you can't bring the dumbbells all the way up to the top, just bring them halfway. There's nothing wrong with doing half of a rep. You're still working the area of the delt that you want to target, which is the middle. Don't allow yourself to work all of the front delt just so you can bring the dumbbells all the way up to the top position. And of course, another vital thing which you don't want to be doing, don't use loads of momentum, okay? If you're just leaning forward, swinging back, leaning forward, swinging back, you're making it so easy for yourself, and you're incorporating a load of other muscles which you don't really need to be targeting. You want to completely isolate your delts when doing this, so stay still. Nothing should be moving. The only thing that should be moving is your arms. Up and down, that's it. Don't go down, swing up, down, swing up. What is this? What is this all about? There's no need to do that, okay? You just see bodybuilders and other people doing it just so they can lift heavier weight, but they can do exactly the same thing with a lighter weight if they stay still. And you're actually gonna just completely isolate the delt, okay? So bear that in mind. You see some people swinging it, right up, swing. Look, this isn't even doing anything for me, I'm just using pure momentum. Bring it up, pause, bring it down slowly, and just before you reach 90 degrees to the ground, bring up, down, just before your shoulders completely relax, bring it back up again. That way you can work the muscle throughout the entire set and really take advantage of time and attention. Another mistake which people make is poor execution of the rear delt flies. Now, many people want to think, right, okay, when I'm doing a rear delt fly, all I need to do is just drive my elbows back and bring the dumbbells as high as possible. When you're doing this, you're actually contracting your shoulders loads and working a lot of you're working your entire back when you're doing this. Yes, you are going to work your rear delts to some extent, but you're not isolating it, okay? So what you want to be doing is performing that movement so you can just purely isolate the rear delt. In order to do that, what you want to do is, it's very rare that I would advise people to push their shoulders forward in an exercise, but for this one, it's something you want to do. So when you're lying down on a bench, push your shoulders forward and imagine that you're doing a kind of an arc. You're not coming all the way back, because if I'm to do this and I pull the hands all the way back, I'm going to be engaging a lot of my back muscles. So let me demonstrate on a bench. You just want to be focusing on the rear delt. So that's this area here. This is what we're trying to isolate, okay? So what weight you use is going to completely depend on your own strength and the rep range which you're going through. Personally, I find using very high reps, my rear delts respond very well to that. I'm talking like 20 plus, but again, it depends what you're doing. So for me, I grab the dumbbells, here we go. What I'm doing, I'm actually pushing my shoulders as far down as possible, and I'm locking my arms out. So arms are straight, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to perform almost like I'm trying to perform a big arc, okay? So I'm bringing the dumbbells up just to about 2/3 of the way up, and then back down. I'm still pushing forward, trying to create this really big arc with my hands. If I come too far up, you'll start to see my back, my traps, everything else starts to engage and my shoulders retract, okay? And you see a lot of people, they do this, they come up, you know, this, yes, you're using your rear delts to some extent, but for me, I'm using so much of my back muscles because they're trying to retract my shoulders, so. I suppose it's when you're doing any kind of a raise, whether it's a front raise like this or a lateral raise, is the flexion of the elbow throughout the movement, okay? What you want to do is keep it fixed throughout. So if I'm doing a lateral raise, keep it fixed like this, in this kind of a fashion. If I'm doing a front raise, keep elbows fixed. If you bring the weight up and do that, you know, you're kind of swinging it up, bending a little bit, swinging and bending, you're just going to be engaging your biceps. And we'll go through one final mistake people make with shoulders. It's not specifically, you know, the delt, it's actually the traps, but since we're talking about shoulders today, might as well talk about traps. Shrugs, okay? When people do this, let me just tell you, first of all, the aim of shrugs is to go through the full range of motion. Full range of motion is pulling your shoulders up as high as possible and then bringing them all the way down. All the way up to the top, squeeze the traps, all the way down. So when you're doing this, you need to pick a weight which allows you to use that full range of motion. Now, let's take for example someone who wants to be seen lifting as heavy as possible. They're going to do something like this. This is doing nothing. Look how short the range of motion is. You know, you're barely shortening the trap at all. You want to ideally stand in front of a mirror so you can see what you're doing. Pull your shoulders as high as possible and squeeze your traps all the way down, pull up, squeeze the traps, up, squeeze hard, all the way down, squeeze hard. You've got to embrace the top position of a shrug, okay? Don't just get there and come straight down, don't go up, down. Get up, squeeze it hard, and then come down. It's not something, shrugs for some reason is something I've always enjoyed doing. I could literally just give me some straps, give me some heavy weight, and I could just shrug all day. It's a very, in my opinion, natural and comfortable exercise to do. And yes, you do. If you want to build your traps, lifting heavy is the goal. But if you can't get full range of motion with a heavy weight, then you're gonna have to lower the weight. It's simple as that. Okay? So pick a weight that's going to be right for you, and squeeze the top of the contraction as hard as possible.